On the night of March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 people lifted off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, bound for Beijing. It was a flight like thousands of others that year. Routine. Unremarkable. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was scheduled to land in just under 6 hours. It never did. At 1:19 a.m., a voice from the cockpit spoke the flight's final words to air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, the plane's transponder went dark. No distress call. No warning. No wreckage falling from the sky in front of witnesses. The aircraft simply vanished from radar, as if it had been erased. What followed was one of the strangest chapters in the history of aviation. Military radar, only made public days later, showed something chilling. After losing contact, the plane didn't crash where it disappeared. It turned. Sharply, deliberately, it banked west, crossing back over the Malay Peninsula before turning again to the northwest and slipping over the Andaman Sea. Someone, or something, was flying that aircraft long after the world had lost sight of it. For nearly an hour, the plane continued flying, tracked only by military radar that no one was watching closely enough at the time. It disappeared from that too, but the story wasn't over. Every hour, MH370 satellite communication system had been quietly transmitting brief, automated signals, a kind of electronic handshake with a satellite orbiting far above the Indian Ocean. The system carried no location data, no message, nothing a search team could simply read off a screen. But it left behind a mathematical fingerprint. 7 of these pings were received after the plane vanished from radar. The final one came nearly 8 hours after takeoff, hours after the plane's fuel should have run out. Investigators from a British satellite company, Inmarsat, began an extraordinary piece of reverse engineering. Using the tiny frequency shifts in these ping signals, a phenomenon called the Doppler effect, they calculated a series of arcs across the globe representing the plane's possible positions at each ping. The final arc stretched thousands of miles, from Central Asia in the north to the desolate southern Indian Ocean. Combined with fuel calculations and the assumption that no one was responding to radio calls, investigators concluded the plane had flown south into one of the most remote stretches of ocean on Earth and had gone down somewhere along that arc, far from any shipping lane, far from any land, far from anyone who might have seen it fall. The search that followed became the most expensive and complex in aviation history. Ships and aircraft from more than 24 countries scoured hundreds of thousands of square miles of ocean. Search crews mapped the seafloor in places human eyes had never studied, revealing underwater volcanoes and canyons deeper than anyone expected. Weeks turned into months. Satellite images repeatedly caught the world attention with promising debris fields, and repeatedly, those leads dissolved into nothing more than flotsam and ocean garbage. Then, in July of 2015, 16 months after the disappearance, a piece of aircraft debris washed ashore on Réunion Island, a small French territory in the Indian Ocean, more than 2,000 miles from the presumed crash site. It was a flaperon, a control surface from a wing, and it was confirmed to belong to MH370. Over the following years, more fragments turned up on beaches across Africa and nearby islands, carried by ocean currents. The debris confirmed the plane had indeed gone down somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, just as the satellite data suggested. But not one of those fragments pointed searchers to where the main wreckage and the black boxes that might explain everything actually lay. The official underwater search, covering an area roughly the size of a small country, ended in January 2017 without finding the aircraft. A private company resumed the hunt in 2018 using advanced underwater drones, scanning tens of thousands of additional square miles. That search, too, came up empty. To this day, the main body of the aircraft has never been found. The absence of concrete answers created a vacuum, and into that vacuum poured theory after theory. Some pointed to the co-pilot or the captain, citing a flight simulator found in the captain's home that had, at some point, plotted a route into the southern Indian Ocean. Investigators found no conclusive evidence tying that simulation to the actual flight, and no clear motive was ever established for either pilot. Others focused on mechanical failure, a fire, a decompression event that incapacitated everyone on board while the plane flew on for hours on autopilot. A chilling but plausible scenario given how commercial aircraft are designed to fly themselves. Still others speculated about hijacking, cargo manifests carrying lithium batteries, or even geopolitical intrigue involving the passengers, which included a group of semiconductor engineers. None of these theories has ever been proven. All of them remain, technically, still on the table. For the families of the 239 people aboard, the absence of wreckage has meant an absence of closure. Malaysia officially declared the disappearance an accident in 2018, and compensation was paid to victims' families, but accident is a word that explains very little when there is no wreck, no black box data, and no agreed-upon reason why a modern airliner with sophisticated tracking systems could vanish so completely in the 21st century. In recent years, new analysis of ocean drift patterns and updated satellite data has led some researchers to push for a fresh search in a narrower stretch of the southern Indian Ocean, and discussions about resuming the hunt have continued. But more than a decade on, MH370 remains what it was in the first confused hours after its disappearance. an aircraft that took off, flew for hours after it was supposed to have gone silent, and was never seen again. Somewhere beneath the waves of the Indian Ocean, in water sometimes miles deep, lies the answer to what happened that night. Until it's found, MH370 remains not just a mystery of aviation, but one of the great unsolved disappearances of our time. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more true mysteries from history, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and let us know in the comments.